Chair Emerson, we are live.
All right, welcome everybody to the Planning and Infrastructure Development Committee. Is Director Adams online here?
Not yet, but
Okay.
he will be joining us.
All right, great. Well, we're going to get started anyways. We have a couple interesting presentations that I'm going to waste no further time getting into. And I guess the other thing I would say is it was a pleasure having the Lieutenant Governor here. He took a look at the yard and all the very exciting developments we've got going on out there, of which there are many. I think that was a really wonderful tour. Glad to have him down. Okay, without further ado, Mr. Massimo, if you'd like to get us started.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Director Emmons, and welcome to all those who are doing this, the public, and all of our other board members who have been here earlier today for committee meetings. CAP board is really so committed and the very best in helping us to move forward with serving the community. We've got a couple of items on proposed board agenda items by committee for planning and infrastructure. And before we move into, I'm going to ask Andrea Brooks-Hunter to make a presentation on the Zero Fare pilot program. But before we do, I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce Joya Dinkins. Joya has joined us, Ms. Dinkins has joined us as the Smart Grant Coordinator role. So one of our largest and most high-profile efforts moving electric vehicle microtransit out into the community, and she's really bringing an incredible amount of expertise into helping us to manage that and to make sure that the administration of our program there is flawless. So welcome. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Brooks-Hunter to walk through the presentation on the Student Zero Fare Pilot Program.
Oh, very nice.
All right, I'm glad to bring this proposal to you all today. So we're going to talk about the Student Zero Fare Pilot Program and implement that chapter. So just a little bit of the overview. We're going to talk about the why we want to implement this proposal, the solution. So how is this going to solve our problems in the Savannah County area, and also the future. So we're implementing this today. Our one in the near future, but how is this going to help CAT and benefit CAT in 3 years? So we're going to dive a little bit into why we want to do this. So we're going to take a closer look at education. So the main goal of this program, this proposal, is to bridge the transportation gap. So we're looking at, okay, how can we help our K-12 and our collegiate students here in the area, private and public institutions, and how can we help make their accessibility not only to education, but transportation easier. So if we're looking at the data, looking at the numbers, so looking at Savannah County Public School System, they educate over 35,000 students. And out of those 35,000 students, we have over 25,000 students that need some sort of transportation to and from school. So the Savannah Chapman County Public School System does have their own private transportation company that they use within their educational system. However, Savannah Chapman County, as a product of the Savannah Chapman County Public School System, I can also say that SCCPSS does a great job with promoting and providing a plethora of choice programs for students so that they can be educated in different districts, whether that's through medical programs, law programs, etc. But there is also a downside to that because if you go to a school that's not in your district, you are not guaranteed transportation. And so 52% of SCCPSS schools have some sort of a choice program. So if you're talking about the numbers, that's over half of our schools. So you're talking about maybe over half of our student population not having access to basic public school transportation. And if we're also talking about, just the performance of their particular bus company and as far as their arrivals and their drop-off time, etc., 52% of SCCPS buses arrivals and drop-offs are not. So, there are. So we're looking at, how can we help them to bridge their gap? How can we give a little push into their transportation system? But also, how can we give just an extra choice to students and their parents so that they can send their student to the school of their choice, but also not have to worry about how their student gets to school every day. So, like I said, this is going to be offered to not only K through 12 public schools, but it's also going to be offered to K through 12 private institutions as well. The population is a bit smaller, with a little bit over 11,000 students, but that is over 30% of the public school population. And of course, the enrollment numbers, if we're breaking it down per age level, of course, is not as great as SCCPSS, but again, as a product of the SCCPSS school system and as a resident of Savannah, I know for a fact that schools like Savannah Country Day and Savannah Christian, they provide bus services to certain neighborhoods such as maybe Windsor Forest and the Landings, because those students out there need transportation, and those parents need help with getting their students to and from school, especially across town. So of course, this is the population that we want to look at, as well as helping and also giving them that extra break as well, and getting their students into So our colleges and universities, so over 78,000 students in the Savannah area are pursuing higher education. So that goes from our technical institutions to our private institutions such as SCAD, and also our public institutions such as Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern with the biggest housing the biggest student population here in the area. That number that you see on screen, that is just for the Armstrong campus, and even though the number is not on this particular presentation, over half of their campus population are on campus. So, when you're talking about on-campus and off-campus housing, you want to look at, okay, the accessibility. So again, not only just making sure students get to campus on time and to their classes on time, but the basic necessities. So making sure that they can access grocery stores and medical appointments and other things like that. And so just making sure again that we offer a reliable and dependable service that students can count on, so that if they do not have a means of transportation, like most freshmen don't at the time, we can offer that. Oh, also transportation costs students over $1,200 a year. So whether that's in any type of, this is a national number, so high-speed rail, whether that's by bus, et cetera, that's how much students pay on top of tuition and on top of student fees, et cetera. That's how much they get. So how can we impact our community? So again, why do we want this program, and why do we want this program implemented at Chatham Area Transit? So we want to enhance ridership. We want, community engagement. We want to promote sustainability. We want this to be a pass, a segue to our UPAS program, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. And also, again, this is a zero fare transit service. And when we're talking about programs, we want to talk about how is it not only going to benefit the students, but how is it going to benefit the class? So if we're promoting sustainability, we want to capture the students' idea or their minds a little bit earlier. So, a lot of students, or a lot of, I would say, young adults, I would say around the college age, that's when they're first, exploring other means of transportation, utilizing what they have at home or what's near. So, showing them again that CAT is a reliable source, and showing them from an early age that they can depend on Chatham Area Transit. That source of transportation for them. And of course, again, enhancing ridership. So, why not start, young? Why not say, hey, you ride with us, you can be dependable, you can start, riding the bus as a middle schooler, and, they can get on into a doctor. So that's great as well. And also community engagement. So, if you get the child engaged, and you get, their parents engaged, it's very key to get community engaged. So again, this is all linked to making sure that this program is successful. So again, this initiative aims to eliminate financial barriers that can often deter students from utilizing public transportation, ensuring that every student has the opportunity to access education without the burden of transportation. So, actually, I forgot to mention that we hope that this is a semester-long pilot program, so we hope to start this in January of 2024 with senior approval. But we hope again that this will increase. So the Universal Pass program is a discounted transit pass that will allow schools and universities to pay Chatham Area Transit and annual rates in exchange for unlimited travel access for the employees or students. So the evolution into future CAT customers. So again, if you're looking at this and saying, oh, hey, this is just going to be, a free fare program for a semester, again, we're looking at potential customers or these potential students, lifelong customers. And again, not only to engage the student, but engage the parent, not only to engage the parent, but to engage the student. So we're looking at the overall big picture. So we envision that this pilot program as a stepping stone for the implementation of the Yes.
It would be for one semester, and it would be for starting in January, and we run it one semester, but while we're running it for free to give everybody a chance to try and be comfortable, and all they have to do is show their student ID, we're still going to be collecting all the data of who's riding and where we're taking to and from. Is it high school students or college students or maybe even a younger student, whoever it might be? We're going to be collecting the data and understanding what's happening during that period of time, and we're going to be working with the community and the schools to develop this UPass program, to market the UPass program while the Fare Free pilot is ongoing, to bring that into a part of how we help transport students in the future, but do it in a way that still brings some the revenue in the town. I think we're going to need to figure that out, Director, but we had originally envisioned it as a semester program, but you're right, there are some different terms, and we'll just have to figure out how to make the terms ends up being a term that makes it pretty consistent. Maybe it's for the next 6 months, let's say. Maybe it's a 6-month time.
I also think that's where St. Patrick's Day could actually come in kind of handy, because a lot of the school systems kind of like, that's our natural little cut right there, and then, so just, yeah.
Very good, thank you.
This is cool.
So again, how are we going to engage the student and community level? So public presentations, again, like Ms. Faye was saying, collaboration with educational institutions. And we hope to build those bridges and also foster those relationships with community and with, of course, community events, media coverage, community feedback, social media campaigns, student ambassadors. So I threw out the idea of a student ambassador because again, you want them to say, hey, I ride CAT, I utilize CAT every day, you should too. So hopefully, again, using this as an incentive for students, but also a marketing strategy for us as well. So again, some more community engagement strategies. So just social media campaign, again, we're looking at the millennial population and Gen Z population as well. Student ambassadors, again, like I was saying, even if you have just specific representatives and different institutions to promote this program, I just, of course, getting the different schools and institutions on board with others as well. That would be great for us in the event. So, like I was saying, just use that time to promote not only the European program, but also that program as well. In collaboration with educational institutions, we're partnering with our local schools, colleges, universities to, give out the information about the program through maybe their website, their means of letting the students know, hey, this is what we're doing. And then hopefully they get, host some informational sessions just so that I feel like sometimes that the public may not know a lot about public transportation at times, and so this is a good way to, let not only this is an education program as well. Again, local media coverage, collaborating with the outlets, our movement, etc. So again, pushing that good press about Chatham Area Transit, and also how Chatham Area Transit is foster these relationships with these educational institutions in our region. And of course, we need that. So I'll talk about that a little bit later, but also we need feedback from the community, the coalition, that is group, just to talk about maybe what they need, what they're missing from, just the public school system, private school system, or, for example, institutions, they have their own shuttles, but like, what else do you need from us as a public transportation, as well to address it. All right, so why students again and should be involved. So of course, we combine all of these instances and just the participation of the community, also Chattanooga Transit and the program success. So it's not just to ensure the success of this transit program, but also a strategy. Again, we're looking at that in the future, like I said, but that program is a brighter, more equitable. So again, the active engagement of the estimates and accessibility, education, and environmental responsibility. And I think so, if we really push that, we support, the force of accessibility, not only transportation and education. I think that would be hopefully plus program and ensure and knowing that Chattanooga Transit is thinking about not just what we provide on a daily basis in our routes, but also okay, how can still help and reach out to help for transportation costs. Okay. So again, why should they be involved? We need some more points. So equity and access, again, making sure that everyone has the option to go to school wherever they want and be educated wherever participate in that competition. Again, that is an area as well. Again, community ownership. So again, like I said, having those that continuous stakeholders. So feeling like this incentive is not only acts, but it's also as well that they have a say so. I feel as though if we open it up to the public to have those ideas and those feedback for us, that will help us a lot. And that will help us, and I think that will help us program. Increasing the ridership, again, that's always the bigger picture to increase the ridership. And again, having the transit authority that, will generation. So not only just, having that village rider, but having that young rider as well. And an education experience that I was saying, I think those relationships not only for us, how we help further of our community, but also for the public, just so that they can open their eyes to what and city engagement, again, engaging our community, so engaging our community, but also being our community with us. So the city, the community, the county, etc., other institutions, that would be, I would say, a bigger picture. Okay, again, more instances for the bigger picture. Again, a long-term commitment to public transportation, again, capturing employment early. Sustainable transportation habits. So of course, we start them out early. Like Chattanooga Transit, that's something that's going to be in their community. So instead of etc., they would utilize Chattanooga Transit, city integration, and community integration. Again, not only how it helps our community and our city, but how our city engage with us. Future mobility planning. So how can this help us in the long run? How can this pilot program turn into that program turn into something much bigger? Revenue generation. Again, of course, we're talking about semester long or even further that pilot program to be free, but also transitioning that into a paid program. Are those students wanting to become paid access? And familiarization is using with public transportation. Again, I can sit here and say that I did not have a lot of knowledge about public transportation and how I open stuff. I look at that a little bit. So the benefits, these are just some of the numbers of what the taxes, how much it would cost CAT, but not how much it would cost CAT, but also how much it would cost for the student as well. So looking at like month, we're looking at that day. And again, we talked about that number earlier, that was $1,200 that students were going to pay on a yearly average, but now, looking at it for a year, $150, that goes down by monthly only $12 a month. But also looking at that data, that's 42.6 that we just provide that there. So, collecting our data or how, with this passing possible. So right now, we use the Children's Transit app, for most of our riders to have, buy their taxis, buy their gas, buy their monthly pass, yearly pass, et cetera. And so hopefully, we will have this app that able to get riders, through this app. Of course, that would take a lot more language to utilize, in the correct way. But that would be something that we could offer this pass on through this application. And hopefully we'll be able to, access to the pass through a very exclusive pass. All right, so the immediate next step, so again, implementing the program development. So again, this is just a component of course diving a little bit more into details on how to make this successful 4 to 6 months, as far as the program goes. Again, stakeholder engagement, so if that would be something that you have found up, as far as leaders, and not only leaders, but just have the time to engage representatives from not only our favorite folks, but our institutions as well. And so that they can be a part of this process, especially before this program launches, so that they can get their ideas and their collaborative effort. Public awareness, so they using this as a marketing tool, letting that this is coming and how it benefit not only parents and students, but also the community. Data collection, like I was saying, use at the time to see a rate of food rides, the bus during that time, we have more food riders, we have, high schoolers versus middle schoolers, et cetera, and then using this program to tailor it so that when as program comes along, we're able to cater to, I won't say a specific group, but we'll know, what areas to kind of focus on, what we could use to have our ridership in particular areas. And just an evaluation, so being really realistic with 6 months, how can just like something that work, okay, or so then as we move forward, we're looking at the education institutions, like I was saying, key partners and stakeholders to learn more important. So then holding that this was 6 months is not only just a for prepare service, but also using this as so campaign not only to market that, but to market our services and how so everything came from
Director Edminster, I think one thing we should mention here is in the actual agenda item, Ms. Cutter has done the financial impact analysis, and it's about $2,600 for this time frame. So a really very modest cost impact
For
of that.
the semester.
In order for us to have the time between, if the board does choose to support this, we would use this time between now and implementation to develop out the details of the implementation would begin in January and would last for that, whatever we end up being that semester, whatever period of time as we define it. And then we would move past that. Hopefully during that period of time, the success of the marketing comes forward, and we actually have new CAT customers with the UPass program.
Kenneth Adams.
Join the meeting.
Hi, Director. A couple questions. Thank you. Okay. This would this be considered a major fare change? It would not. Okay.
No,
Cool.
not as a pilot, not as a demonstration.
If we
For a limited period of time, remember, it would have to last longer than a year or more.
if we move towards the UPass, would it trigger that?
We would have to do analysis. I think it would probably likely trigger that, but it might trigger it in a very positive way too.
Well, I would imagine so. I mean, we're not jacking the price up. We're dropping it.
And we're likely
Hmm.
So those kind of associated numbers with fair analysis change would reflect that as well.
The couple things I would just sort of consider are when there was so in the UPass program right now, the idea is that I would pay $150 for a year as a student, and then Georgia Southern would pay the other whatever amount that I use.
The universities or the schools could choose, the public school system, the private schools, or the university or college could choose to absorb all the costs and provide this benefit. And plug it into student fees.
Well,
That's
yeah.
in a lot of other places.
That's what I mean. I think honestly, for college students of really of any age, I think the $150 price tag is just fine. It's fairly affordable, really, for a whole year. It's probably okay. But for students K through 12, I would really encourage that it's just we do whatever we can to endeavor making that just simply free. Because for a lot of families, that could be even have $150 all at once. If you have 2 or 3 kids, that can become significant.
I think what you're pointing out is something for us to keep in mind when we're planning time before implementation, is to be very thoughtful about what the equity impacts are of any of the potential measures that we might bring forward.
Mhm.
During that development time, we're gonna have to, just like we did. You remember through the recent COA TDP analysis that we did around service modifications and stuff, that we really dug deeply into both the financial impacts and the community impacts, and I think we're going to do that with this as well.
I mean, it's kind of interesting too, because if you could offer, let's say you were going to take 600 rides a year, which is a ride every day, perhaps back and forth. If you were to even discount all of that, like 90%, having to pay 90% off is still you're going to be paying it all in one lump sum. So that might be, and for some folks, I would imagine it does make sense to pay $3 a day, because I know I've got, I don't have to do it all at once. And then my other idea is to do it for 2 semesters. If you're going to do it for 1 semester, just do it for 2 semesters. But I don't know if that triggers anything. And if it's $2,600 a semester, that's not that bad. Because a lot of it is just going to be awareness and marketing. So if you're going to do all this work to get it out there, I would just say I would support it being, I would support it being longer. I'd be fine with that.
Maybe what we could do is we could come back at the midpoint.
That's smart.
And then make a decision at that point about extension or transition.
Because it takes so long to get people to be aware of anything, it takes months. And so by the time even a small percentage of students or eligible folks that are aware of it, it's sort of already starting to come to a close. But I love that idea. I think that'd be great.
Awesome. Very good. We'll be bringing that forward for the board's consideration.
Who sees that presentation? Who sees that presentation? Is that an internal presentation or
your committee sees it, the planning committee, and then we share it in packages.
Okay.
But then we don't go through it in complete like we did here. That's the complete presentations are gone through in each committee, provided to all board members, and then open for discussion if somebody brings up a specific question.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Our next item, I'll go ahead, Director, if that's okay with you, and I'll move through the items that are on the agenda with explanation and so forth. So the next item is the COA Transit Development Plan. You recall that there's recently, we held a very in-depth work session. I remember that many of you were impressed with the level of detail and the kinds of information that you were learning. WRA certainly has done an absolutely tremendous job for us. And this will be to request the board's adoption of that COA, Comprehensive Operational Analysis and Transit Development Plan, and our 5-year plan focused on route stop service, levels of service, daily operations, etc. One of the things that we mentioned in one of the earlier meetings that I want to reiterate here is what a tremendous job this board has done in having the vision, have the master transit plan, the COATP, the zero emissions bus plan, and then the kind of budget process that we have. It's like we really do have all the tools that are there to make sure that the success of CAP, both now, midterm, and long term, is really assured, because we've got our roadmap. We understand what we want to do, we understand the vision that we have, we understand how we're going to fund it and bring it forward to fruition. So, this is another key and important part of that.
If I may, kudos to you and your staff for making that all happen.
It's been a very exciting year.
Yeah, it's interesting to think. I mean, just looking at this, back in December, we did that. And time is a funny thing.
Just looks by.
Oh my God, I know.
The next item is a little bit more of a housekeeping item, and I'm glad that, again, that Joya is bringing her tremendous amount of expertise to this area. The SMART grant program, we're going to be bringing forward a travel policy for reimbursement. Part of what the SMART grant includes is there is a participation, there's a budget for travel expenses that was included in the original grant application that is specifically for external advisory board members and other experts that may be called upon to participate in the process.
Mm-hmm.
We need to make sure, as we always are, aimed towards compliance and making sure that there's consistency and thoroughness in our policy process, that we have an expense policy, travel and expense policy that governs those reimbursements through this program. And this is also a demonstration to our partners at USDOT that we are very adept at administering this kind of big program, because if you remember, our aim with this is when phase 2 for the SMART grant comes out, is that we've done a great job this time through, and that we're ready for that, the larger funding comes with that phase. So this is a simple, pretty straightforward travel policy for reimbursement, but a necessary, again, sort of compliance and policy matter for us to do that. And then the last one is a little bit related to our legislative agenda, so I'm going to talk about them together. So we recently emailed to the board, and that will also be one of the matters that is on the agenda under other business, is our legislative agenda for 2024.
Mm-hmm.
If you recall, last year we had a really successful year in the legislative process with what was the Georgia Transit Trust Fund. That's the ride-hail fee funding source that historically those funds have been directed to Atlanta. And last year, for the very first time, GDOT took a leadership role. We were very much a key partner in that to create a formula-based program so that there's a portion of that collection of those fees that is now allocated out to all transit systems in the state under an allocation-based formula. Then there's a portion that can be applied for, you apply for that, but it's still, you've got an allocation-based or formula-based allocation that you apply for. And you have to state your purposes and uses of that. And that's what this agenda item is about, is that submission. And then there's also a portion of it that can be for a line item allocation. But we'll focus for this moment on this agenda item is for the grant application. You may remember last year that this program was brand new and it didn't occur until after the end of the session. So last year, or this year, this calendar year, you have already acted upon submission from that was for last fiscal year. And it was, remember, that was the one, at that time, our formula funding was around $270,000. And then during that process, we were contacted and told that there were some transit systems that didn't fully utilize their allocations, and those were being further distributed. And by the time that we were done, we had around $794,000 in formula funds. We allocated that to the Chatham Connects, CAP Connects program, which is the replacement, if you will, of the new version of the senior circulator, which you've been hearing about over several meetings, and we advanced that program. Well, now GDOT has this program up and running, and this is the schedule that it's now going to be on every year. And by September 30th every year, you'll get your formula amount, and they'll ask you to submit your application by September 30th to get your formula amount. We're applying to, this year, right now it's at $396,664. We're applying to use that to purchase 3 electric microtransit vehicles so that our microtransit program, first mile, last mile, and our, what's starting in the SMART grant, but what needs expansion, that we'll have the vehicles to be able to do that. So this is going to be a very important purchase for us. We also are going to be ready so that if in fact this year again, some of our transit partners around the state don't fully utilize all their funding, we're going to be ready with a list of needs that we can come in behind that if other funds are allocated to us. And we are still going to make a request for a line item allocation of $1 billion to do electric vehicle charging infrastructure. So this particular grant submission will be for $396,664, and it will be for 3 electric micro-transit vehicles. We're very excited about that. Any questions about any of the proposed board agenda items before we move on to reports?
Yes, a funny technical question. I'm interested. What does a formula look like?
Formula is based upon, interestingly enough, we can give you the formula. The way they
I'd
constructed
love
the formula-
to see that. I think that's such a weird
The way
idea.
they constructed the formula.
Smart idea.
Is it is based upon your ridership, population, those kinds of things you can think of. But in our case, for example, Three Rivers, good example. Three Rivers, so the regional commission, that's over in, Buds, Carroll, Lamar. The reason that they get
That's a regional commission.
Yes, but the reason that they get $1 million is because look how many counties they serve. So if you serve multiple counties, it bumps you up in the tier of evaluation. We right now are a single county. If Chatham County becomes a transit provider, let's say in Bryan County, do Monday, or some of our other surrounding partners, it will also bump us up in the
Is it just
allocation.
any more than one?
County.
Any more than one, and that's a multi-county?
Any more than one. If you're one county, you get constrained to, and see, they use your FTA 5307 formula, and then the amount of area that you have your service area. So we're considered a large urbanized area.
Interesting. So Three Rivers Regional Commission, and I know that there's a Chatham. Don't we have one of those around here?
Yes,
Coastal Regional Commission?
And they also get about $1 million.
And CRC, right? And they okay.
They provide rural transit.
So yeah, I would imagine it's
Rural
like,
transit providers. They are essentially they're essentially paratransit.
I remember we had worked with them before. So Georgia collects all this tax, and then they divide it based off of
Like
the fee, and then they divide it based off of a couple different things. Are you urban? Are you rural? Are you multi-county? Are you not? Those are different weights. And then there's obviously a ridership. Ridership would be.
that actually probably is already calculated in your FTA formula, because FTA pulls everything.
Is this? That's just very interesting. That sounds like a long equation.
I can give all the details of it, just so you can.
Yeah, because it's. I've been hearing about formulas for years, but I've never actually seen one. And then this is also kind of off topic, but it is on topic because it's in the contract. It says time is of the essence. What does that mean?
Time is of the essence because this grant application has to be in by September 30th or we forfeit.
So in the contract, it's kind of doubling down and saying.
And next year, it won't run like this. This year, remember, they just came off of really kind of getting the first round of funding out there and allocated. And now they're going to run on every, just because they're running on October 1, September 30. So they're just trying to make sure that they're going ahead and getting that next allocation done. And this will now be the second year of the program, and so this will become regular. We'll be able to anticipate it earlier. We're likely to get the formula funding marks maybe a little earlier. But this year they're really kind of doing 2 years worth with the earlier allocation plus this one. So time is of the essence was because of the deadline associated with the application that we have to make in order to secure our formula funds.
So this, I'm just looking at a receipt from Uber right now. There's a Georgia for hire ground transport excise tax. That's it.
That's it.
And my 58 cents on my chow mein went to this. That's
It
so
does
interesting.
in the past,
Really adds up.
It's been retained almost exclusively in Atlanta for MARTA, and I think Athens at one time got a small allocation of it. there being a different way of looking at it.
Yeah, it just makes sense for it to do that.
And GDOT's leadership, Commissioner McMurray, this was really his brainchild, and he did a tremendous job in making sure that now those funds really do have a statewide impact.
And to wrap it all up in my brain, how much are we receiving this year?
By formula, as it stands right now, $396,664. Once all the applications go in, it is possible that once again, there will be funds that are remaining, and if they are, and we've made sure that GDOT is aware that we have other needs that we could be ready to go on the meet, we would hope to be considered favorably for an additional allocation just as we were last year. And then during the legislative session, we'll also pursue the same funding source, but for a line item allocation.
Okay, cool. Those were all my absurd questions. Thanks.
No, they're great questions, and those are questions that the public who's listening to us and wants to know. You ask all the questions that people ask us, and that's next. All right, well, our next couple of items, let's go through the next item, and then we can discuss. So we will move through this. And in October, this is September, in October, the new planning chief will be here, Barry Moskowitz. She will have joined us from Florida, and I'm hoping that she will be presenting the report. So I'm thinking this could be my last planning report. Am I looking like?
That'll be great.
So, August Title VI public meetings, you're aware of those, and we've been reporting on those. Those were associated with the work that we were doing with our service line analysis and so forth. The student zero fare pilot program, which it says presentation forthcoming, but you actually just heard it. And the preliminary November service planning and roster meetings, all that is ongoing and deep coordination between planning and operations. That is a team effort with our operators as well as with our planning operations. And then we got all kinds of staff training going on with this first summer. We also
You need me to go back? Sorry.
important November roster dates. We're reviewing roster and schedule, obviously with the union. Final schedule changes will go into place during that period of time. Roster comparison, in the July pick, we had 57 total rosters, including 3 part-timers and 1 tripper. And in November, we are proposing 63 total rosters, including 3 part-timers and 0 trippers. One thing I want to mention that is, I think, really important is this morning we had a historic operator graduation here at CAT. It was the single largest we've ever had. 16 new operators graduated this morning.
Oh my God.
11 para and 5 fixed route. And in that fixed route, our first ever graduate of the on-site CDL training program. So we're very happy.
Wow, that's
Today was, and we've got about that same size class coming up.
cheaper.
So those are the things that are going to make it possible for all of the great work in Master Transit Plan, the COAP, vision, and so forth. All those things, that's how we make it happen.
That is impressive.
It is.
That's really
It is.
crazy.
So what has changed? Alignment and bus stop corrections to minimize our Clever and GTFS issues. Additional bus on Route 25 that allows 30-minute frequency on weekdays. Changed alignment on Route 25 to create two-way service on Gerard. Mile 5, when I look at names like that, you think you know how to pronounce it. Questions? Mile 5, Route 17, end of route to Walmart. Restored Route 11 to run 6:10 a.m. to 6:29 p.m. We've updated the relief points on Route 12 for operator request. Again, you're listening to our operators. They are our eyes on the road and helping us to make our service even better. And then we've got service additions that reduce split runs. Split runs is an issue that has been brought to our attention by the operators. And it was a matter though, again, this is back to making sure that we have enough operators and that we can, bring those split learning, we can address that in this plan. Next one. So Chat Connect survey, again, if we always want to hear from folks. So even though a lot of our work is nearing an end with the COA TDP work and the master transit plan, please continue to tell us what you think, because we always want to improve. Next slide. Any questions?
That's a terrific number.
We're going to go over to the communication. Ari Johnson will be sharing. As she's getting started, I want to say, I hope everybody has seen, we've got 2 CatCasts this month. It's a special month. We have our regular CatCast drop, and then we have a special edition CatCast with the director of Savannah Jazz, promoting the Jazz Festival and trying to get there.
Who is that?
Paula.
Paula Fogarty?
Yes.
She's such a bundle of fun. Oh, that's really cool.
It was very good. So if you haven't watched that CatCast, you should.
I encourage you guys to all go to the Jazz Festival this Friday. Free show, Friday at Forsyth Park.
Okay.
I'll try to be there.
Good.
Some,
Thank you, CEO DeMassimo.
at the end of the day.
Look it up.
Yeah, it's super fun. That and Picnic in the Park, just don't miss it. And what was your name again? Joya? Joya. That's so cool. That is cool.
All right, so we'll start with our cat tracker. We are still seeing some significant strides with our installed devices or downloads. Apple now has more than 15,000 downloads since our first launch, and Samsung has more than 3,000 downloads. I thought it would be a good idea.
Question. I bugged you last month because those numbers seem.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that in this slide right here. So I thought it was a good idea to put some definitions down of what we are pulling from our statistics on Apple and Samsung. Apple and Google Play Store. So install base, it means the number of active devices your app is installed on. An active device is one that has been turned on at least once in the previous 30 days. Our monthly active users, the definition stands for the number of users who open your app in a 28-day period. So out of our install base, as previously stated, we have more than 15,000 on Apple and more than 3,000 on Google. However, our monthly active users is more close to 1,800 on Google and close to 900 on Apple. Director Edmondson, does this help answer your question a little bit from last month? Okay. And just a fun fact, this day, exact day last year, September 19th, Cat announced the Cat Tracker to the public for the first time. So we are 1 year in today with our Cat Tracker. Service alerts, Cat's text alert system increased by 8% in August. So we still see a steady increase with our service alerts, and we can attribute that for the month of August towards the storm, Idalia, and how we pushed really hard for people to sign up for service alerts with all the changes going with that. We'll get into that a little later. With our social media, our platform increased in August. Facebook by 25 followers, Twitter or X by 13, Instagram by 19, LinkedIn by 12, and YouTube by 4. And here is just a breakdown more of that describes our impressions, our profile visits. I do want to note that on the X, I'm getting used to that new change. The X platform, some of the data wasn't available. And so as you see for profile visits, you'll see a not available. And when it gets updated, we'll definitely update that on the presentation. In the month of August, CAT's marketing and communications team held Title VI public meetings. We announced to the public the board approval of the master transit plan. We kept the public informed during Tropical Storm Idalia, and then we also beautified our shelter right in front of CAT Central.
The can I bug you guys about the beautification? Once we get there? Is now a good time? Okay, so I got a picture of this from a friend, and we had an interesting conversation about it. And I think we both really liked the idea behind it, but the execution just feels kind of, I don't know the right way to put it. And so, but we did have a really interesting conversation about how, like, that's such a fun idea. Like, that's such a fun idea. And like, and I want to be involved, you know? And like the person I was talking to, they wanted to be involved. And it was like, oh, like if we can we do that? And if we can, then it's just kind of a fun idea. And
Sort of like as a contribution to the nation type of thing.
yeah, or just, or also just sort of like almost like a blessing where it's like, hey, yeah, like if I was like, hey, here's my idea. And I know we had kind of talked about this, but it,
Well, we wanted to do something that's kind of simple.
mhm,
We didn't want it to.
that's always a good idea, yeah.
Yeah, we wanted to do something that was kind of simple and it was pretty easy to execute
Mhm,
because we didn't have the budget or whatever.
mhm,
You know, we just started, it's underway, a comprehensive evaluation of every stop, shelter, everything we've got, all 1,100 plus of them throughout Chatham County. And the condition of them, and the accessibility of them, and the lighting of them, and do they have this or not that, and what, so forth, yeah. So, but on this one, it's right out front.
it's right
And
there.
we wanted to, I would call it spruce it up, but we didn't want it to be overly complicated or, too much. So we were trying to look for something sort of basic. A lot of places in downtown Savannah use that green,
Mhm,
leafy looking kind of a treatment.
mhm.
So we sort of borrowed that from that, and then the wording was just, just put something that just says catch a cat. We would have, it would really have fun to get this.
Yeah, that'd be
But
cool.
we don't put it capacity.
But
So.
it just got such an,
We would love to have your.
well, I've got some, and and I'm even thinking across the street from the cafe, there's a stop on the Waters routes, and in front of a very old, very decrepit building, and that used to be a church, and so the people that own the building now took a pew outside and set it up along the sidewalk, and it's now a bus stop, and there's a tiny little natural awning from the building, but they put it out there to be a natural bus stop. And there's all these sort of very informal, not super informal, but it was still an intention. I asked the property owners who live like up in northern Georgia somewhere why they brought it out, and they said, oh, it's for people to sit while they're waiting for the bus. And there's so many of those informal little actions being taken to just make it a little bit nicer, it's still there. And so I just feel like, when I was having this conversation with this guy, but I do think people really want to help, but I also think, and this is like, we live in this funny situation where we've got like, there's it can't be a mural or it can't be art per se, because that triggers a bunch of other stuff, but it can be, it could be decoration, perhaps, it could be something. And so I just know that I think there is a lot of not pent up demand, but there's a lot of opportunity from people to just do very, very simple stuff.
The SCAD students gave us a fire mimicry, shelter design, and we have to think about where we are within the historic district, the shelters that are there. Those are more.
I totally get that. I don't want to biomimicry
So,
one in
we're
downtown
trying to figure
either.
out how to implement that one.
Yeah.
The funding and so forth to implement that one, design considerations and such. And then just trying to do, like I said, some simple, more elegant and simple kinds of things, not anything that's kitschy. So, but appreciate your thoughts and suggestions on that. So,
Almost like, let me think. Are you familiar with like the little free libraries?
yes.
Sort of incorporate like that vibe. you know,
Mhm.
into like, and
Let's think about it.
I might
I
see
think
what I
that'd
can
be a
do.
great opportunity for that, for maybe just one that's more needed. Because, that way, Director Emerson, and maybe Director Bell, have mentioned, I think it's more than half $5,000.
Yeah.
Programs and everything like that, to do it by separate.
I also do understand there's a concern, or you know, a little bit. Just a couple minutes ago, I was thinking, oh, like, what if I brought like a cute little trash can to stop, and then it's like, okay, well, who's going to take care of the trash can? So there is, you know, obviously there's some.
Some practical matters, but I
Mhm.
think that should include money, but then I like, Ms. Dennis's idea of forming a committee, so let us talk to the chairman, about forming a committee like that to work on this a little bit. And it's very timely, because if the work of that committee can coincide with completion of the comprehensive inventory of all of our sites.
Yes,
and
yeah,
shelter,
that's a good point.
It's gonna be in a GIS form, so it's
Mhm.
actually gonna be something now where it's not gonna be like paper copies of stuff.
Yeah.
We're actually gonna be able to manage this in a much more, interesting way than what we've been able to do in the past. And this might be, we could sort of layer this on top of that, the prioritization of things and so forth. This can be a good thing.
Be fun.
Okay.
All right, I like it.
All right, I love it, brainstorming just right in the moment.
Yes. And as Mr. Massimo mentioned earlier, our episode 7 for August for the Cat Cast and featured Mr. Massimo, Miss Paula Kressler of Healthy Savannah, and Miss Kayla Brown of Bike Walk Savannah. But we also had that special episode with the executive director of Savannah Jazz Festival.
Actually, we also did, this is actually an earlier episode, since that one, we
Mhm.
also brought the one with the GDOT board member. It was after.
Mm.
GDOT board member and the,
An NPC,
NPC.
Melanie. That one was playing out front.
Exactly.
I do really want to. I want to.
I think that is the one that, actually, that's the one that dropped, and then the special edition dropped right after that. So there's so many of them now. They're
Correct.
They're all just so good.
So I'll make sure
But we
I,
have most interesting people come and talk.
Oh,
We
yeah.
do.
Paula and Kayla, they're
I'll make sure I correct that for the board report. But also I did want to capture with the conversation with the Savannah Jazz Festival executive director, it really put in the forefront the conversation about CAT connecting and the community events that the city of Savannah and Chatham County are known for, and how CAT is involved in that as well. So it was a beautiful conversation. We really want you guys to listen in. And then also CAT in the news. Chatham Area Transit was mentioned in 41 newscasts between media outlets. And then CAT also participated in 2 emergency press conferences regarding Idalia. Any questions? I think we kind of talked throughout. So thank you.
I'll say a couple things too that are coming up on, that are fun ideas on Podcast, is we are working on, doing something with Ghost Pirates, potentially of Savannah Banana. Where that invitation sort of tuning right now, but if not, then maybe a Savannah State football player to talk about teams, the importance of teams.
that'd be cool.
A cat important for these guys, and it gives us a chance to showcase them. And then the other one is there is a restaurant, actually in Starland, that just was named to Bon Appetit's.
Oh, Brochu,
Yes.
family tradition.
We've reached out to them because we said you're best of the best, we're best of the best. Let's talk about
That's
how
cool.
you get to be best of the best.
And they're right on the.
Those are a couple of
Right at the end of
Cat
the-
Cast ideas we have.
That was very, very impressive.
Okay, next, couple of items is, I mentioned already the legislative agenda that has been sent out to the board already by separate email for review. We are focusing on the Georgia Transit Trust Fund funding and perhaps a line item allocation there. There's also an opportunity there for a GTIP application. And then we are working, especially as we're looking at Hyundai, what has formerly been called Bus on Shoulder, what we're now referring to as Express on Shoulder, on I-16 and potentially other major state routes. We're working with Georgia DOT on a legislative action that would be required to permit that here. It's presently only permitted on Georgia 400 in the Atlanta area. But GDOT is certainly interested in considering how that can just be that opportunity to engage in those kinds of services with all of the proper engineering analysis and permitting and all those kinds of things, something that they might enter into state law.
Did it say, that's what I, yeah, you just answered my question. GDOT's lobbying and we're helping to try to get it to be statewide.
Well, we brought the idea forward
Uh-huh.
because we wanted to do it, and then
Yeah.
as we started talking about it, we said, well,
Why not just do it?
Just look at this statewide,
Yeah.
and so GDOT.
Obviously with the correct.
Exactly. So we'll see where that goes. We've got it proposed where it can either be something that a request for us, or it could be a request that's more comprehensive and something.
I have a question, unrelated, but maybe related. So they're planning on raising the bridge,
Yes.
which is a wild idea. That's a fantastical idea, right? And are we in those conversations about like, because I know they're planning on keeping the bridge open, and this is years in the future, but still going to be a big deal when that's a deal. I don't think it's planning on being closed, but it is going to be seriously squished. And so I just want to make sure that's on our radar because
Absolutely.
that's
Absolutely.
such a funny idea.
It's an incredible project. And then the last item is, we'll be presenting on the zero emission bus rollout plan. It's a required plan, and it also incorporates not only our electric vehicle market planning and so forth, and the expansion of our footprint in that area, but it also begins to look at hydrogen cell.
Mhm.
We know something that the state is interested in, that Hyundai is interested in as well. And like all those other plans that we talked about earlier, this becomes another part of how we're providing the roadmap for our future. So kudos to this board, community, and our staff who have all participated in these really important efforts. But what we'll be doing is presenting it to you, and you have a month, just like we've done with the others, and then we'll bring it forward for adoption next month. And again, it is a requirement though that we have to be able to reference when we're doing applications for funding for it. Under proposed business action for other committees, there's nothing under service delivery and operational. There is a purchase proposed for 20 laptops and 20 desktops under financial services audit compliance. And then under executive governance, our board administrator, Ms. Dumas, brought forward a proposal to the board that would help bring our schedules into better alignment with things like when we get our financial reporting, our statements and so forth, so that our reports can be timely and more thorough and complete, as well as proposing to give the board the month so rescheduling the board, the committee structure of meetings, just the meetings a bit, and then also giving the board the month of December off, and the staff would then commit to using that month for the time that we would have otherwise used in preparing for the board meetings and committees and so forth. It now becomes our strategic planning time as we're closing out a calendar year to be ready to come back strong after the holidays in January. Ms. Dennis, did I miss anything in that explanation? You covered it so well.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think that is everything. Director Edmiston, we appreciate your idea for the, we're going to get with the chairman of the committee, and I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Tractor Adams, are you there? I think he is there.
He is there. Director Adams, you're on mute. You may have to unmute, sir.
But I want to ask if you've got any questions. Thinking, do I have any more? No, good. Good presentations. Thank you. There's a lot of information, as always. And our board meeting is when? Next week, Tuesday. Wow. It's already the end of September? No. Cool. Thank you, everybody. Meeting